Hello. First of all, let me explain something before I get on the main point of this video. This video is made to explain these concepts as used by the pickup artist community. I believe these concepts are essential to understand hypergamy clearly. While I make no distinctions myself between alpha and beta males, while I see no reason why such distinctions are important in the context of MGTOW, I truly believe that understanding these distinctions gives you a better understanding of female nature. I'm not going to throw dimorphism into it, I'm not going to talk about apes, I'm not going to talk about nature or evolution. I'm going to view everything from the powers of what defines alpha and beta as basically by the ability of one man to fuck or not fuck. That's it. There's the terms defined before you. Freak out and start screaming out of your asses. The reason why I'm explaining this so simply is because this is a language used by the pickup artist community to explain the actions of hypergamy. This is using pickup artist lingo. This is viewing things from a gynocentric lens, but putting a red pill perspective into it. If you don't like it, stop watching the video right about now. If you continue watching the video and have another trigger later on, please remember that you have already been warned, and if you have a mental breakdown in the comment section, please allow me to say this in advance. Suck my dick. MGTOW talks about hypergamy as the ultimate need for a woman to find a man of higher value than her. That means she is looking for a man of status, looks, and money that is higher than her own. Hypergamy looks for a male with a higher sexual marketplace value than her at any point in time. But hypergamy does not simply care to achieve just that. And we forget that hypergamy is instinctual and is also subjected to irrational and narcissistic points of view that many of today's females suffer with. Hypergamy, however, is not so simple to understand. It is not a simple on and off operating mode that will result in a woman stretching her legs wide open to every man that has an SMP or a perceived SMP that's higher than her. Hypergamy is dualistic, comparative, and subjective. And what does that mean? Well, that takes us back to alpha and beta males. You might think that hypergamy will always look for an alpha male to reproduce with, however that is not true. You might think that being alpha or beta might be related to your wealth and status, and although it helps, alpha is pretty much dominated by physique and attitude. It is a frame of mind, it has nothing to do with anything else. But as a woman matures in her mind, she understands more and appreciates things a lot more than what she did before. Basically, a woman will fuck anyone with biceps, firm chest and abs who tells her to go fuck herself in her youth, because that man exhibits an alpha attitude. Her youth, by the way, is defined as ages between 20 and 25. Though looks are initially very important, as the woman grows, the attitude changes to be the most important thing. Therefore, if a woman sleeps with a few guys during these early years, she notices that she responds more to the disrespect and the freedom of the mind of the man that she sleeps with, of course if he's also good looking. And she chooses men along those lines. But looks are essentially as important as the attitude. Therefore, a dichotomy exists within the mind of a woman between alpha and beta, and the alpha and beta men she sees in her head are basically only witnessed in the attitude that woman has in bed with her man, and the attitude that she has with that man in the world. You can tell if a woman sees you as a provider if she's not as slutty as all the other women you slept with. And this might actually surprise you as to the SMP of the females that you have slept with, as it might not be correlating to the response that you get from her. You might find that a woman with only average looks will not be so sexually promiscuous with you, and a woman who is far more attractive, let's say, will be doing anything and everything under the sun in order to please you. That means that for the first woman you are viewed as a beta male, and for the other woman you are viewed as an alpha male. The looks of a female do not generally define how she views you. However, there will be times and situations that you can pretty much guess what a woman is looking for and how she sees you. There are basically times that a woman will be actively looking for a beta. She doesn't recognize why she's looking for a beta, but she simply is. Those situations include women who are single mothers, women in their late 20s and early 30s who start considering settling down. That doesn't mean that these women will not sleep with alpha men, but they will not invest time with them in an effort to change them because they have learned that these men generally don't settle down. In her youth, a woman might have tried this approach, but with a constant supply of men out there, there's always someone new and more exciting in order to sleep with. So this investment generally doesn't happen as much as it used to happen before. Therefore, realistically speaking, the alpha and beta male concepts that are defined in the manosphere are generally not well defined because the definition is varied from person to person, but the common denominator is the perception of the female. As such, in a purely gynocentric field of vision, generally speaking, a man who fucks around is a man who gets away with fucking around. Therefore, he can be considered as an alpha. Again, I do not agree with these definitions, but they help explain hypergamy, so please follow. The sexual marketplace value defines the pressures that women may feel throughout their life and how they will capitalize on those pressures. If you view the sexual marketplace value graph that you have in front of you right now, this is a graph that I borrowed from Rollo Tomassi's blog, and just pay attention to it while I'm talking about it. What I want you to do is to focus on the peaks for the sexual marketplace value for men and women. There is about 15 years gap between men and women on when they reach their peak. That doesn't necessarily mean that a beta will become an alpha given years, but rather that women that were previously not interested in him and were beyond his reach will find him attractive. Also, if you see the early peak of the female SMP and the later on decline, that will show you why women will settle later on. Unless something very wrong has occurred to females over these early years of her peak, she will only sleep with alpha men. She will sleep with men she sees as alpha genetically, initially in looks and then in attitude. During her peak in sexual attractiveness, the woman will generally sleep with men who provide to her the best tingles, let's say. And the tingles are related to the potential genes she can extract if she was to get pregnant. That doesn't mean that women do not have the ability to think and protect themselves from getting pregnant, but the tingles there exist with those men in order to guarantee that at her peak this woman will get the best genes possible if she was to get pregnant. This is related to evolution after all. As she grows older, security becomes more important to her, either to raise her child that she may have already with another alpha that she slept with before, or as her SMP is declining, in order to find a beta or an alpha that she managed to subjugate in order to raise a family with. But again, remember, the alphas that she will be looking for are not going to be around her age group and are generally still too hooked into the sex craze to even consider this ridiculous possibility. Also, during her peaking SMP value days, do not even question as to why all these females may be sleeping with older guys with grays in their beard. That's because many of these females were born in fatherless homes and they seek the security of the quiet gray male protector. So yeah, there are exceptions to many things, but the rules apply with regards to alpha and beta men. Another important aspect to note is that of shit tests. The importance of a shit test is that to reaffirm the man's status in the woman's mind. This serves no other purpose. She doesn't know she's doing it, and the majority of men pass those shit tests without knowing what they are doing or what they are. She constantly tests and reaffirms that that man is an alpha. Again, an alpha of 10 years ago might eventually change in her mind in order to be a beta. The constant shaming tactics, moaning and bitching can wreck any man, after all. It is why it's important that red pill knowledge gets passed down from father to son, and so forth. It is why I urge all the divorced fathers or the awakened while married fathers to pass the knowledge on to their sons. While a woman's hypergamy might trick her to settle with a beta, she realizes early on that she is with a beta, and if the state in her life warrants that beta provider, she will stick around until she is financially safe or her child is financially secured. Then she will start to rebel away from this man. And do not be fooled into thinking that once the frame has been lost, that any man can win the frame back. The idea is, if the frame is lost, it is gone forever and the woman will never respect you again. To her, once she realizes that you're something she hates, that she capitalized and settled on someone that is less worthy of her earlier prime years, That with the added benefit of narcissism, which is mixed into that, she will constantly shame and disrespect that man and might eventually get a divorce. Depending on the marriage or the relationship or her beliefs that might force her to stay with that man, the relationship will become hell until its eventual doom. Just ask any beaten man in a marriage who becomes a servant to his wife. Therefore, as the term alpha and beta is something that is defined by a woman, it is also fluid and it is never constant. You might enter the relationship as an alpha male and then exit it as a beta male. She constantly rechecks and reaffirms her decision, and once the frame is lost, it is lost forever, and the respect is never won back. This sounds like a lot of work, doesn't it? To be fair, it does sound like a lot of work, but if you're not one blowjob away from turning blue pill, then it's not really a lot of work. The reason why I'm saying this is if you have truly internalized your self-worth as only being dependent on your point of view, if you only care to make yourself feel better and be better, and you preoccupy yourself with your important goals in your life, if you're socially adept, this will come naturally. If in essence red pill is not a conscious effort for you, but it is rather a reality that you experience constantly, all this will be natural. But the potential for damage for a man is constantly there. The potential that one day his woman might wake up to see him completely differently than what she did before is always there. As such, MGTOW is the answer. This gives you all the cards back, and you choose to do with the cards what you like. Hypergamy, whatever you guys believe, is not simply status, money and looks. It is a fluid dualistic sexual strategy that may be actively looking for alpha and beta men in order to serve different functions in a woman's life. The driving force is further altered later on in a woman's years, but I'm personally not interested in women older than, let's say, early 30s, so I'm not going to talk about them at all. For guys who are interested in this demographic, they can do their own research. Suffice to say, for these women, the choice switches back to primarily an alpha-seeking and excitement behavior, let's say. When we talk about hypergamy, work and money, there is a lot of things wrong with the way that we view things as MGTOW. Yes, the pickup artists have one-upped us on this particular issue, but I find if we are going to quote hypergamy on absolutely everything, we might as well understand it. Your decisions are yours to make. The life is yours to live. And if you're going to understand what I said here or not is in essence subject to the triggers that you're going to be able to accept before shouting simp, pussy, begging fuckwad, or whatever the hell your glorious imagination may grant you. However, if you want to understand hypergamy, quickly and briefly, you need to have an open mind. If you're going to choose a life away from hypergamy and away from women, you might as well have a conscious understanding of it. Wouldn't you think? That's it. Thank you for listening. Check the link below from Rollo Tomasi regarding understanding of the S&P graph. This was Nico Chosky talking about all things man.